With the Total Drama Island reboot in full swing and finally airing on Max and Cartoon Network in the US, it felt like it was time to finally revisit the original cast and the original series. The show is notorious for its ridiculous or redonkulous challenges and tormenting a group of teens all competing for that $100,000 grand prize. It was hosted by Chris McLean, an egotistical and immoral presumed 30-something reality TV show host that not only served as the host, but also the writer, director, and executive producer of the first season. He makes it clear that he gets off on torturing these poor cast members, and in one episode he even forces them to face their biggest fears, like Courtney has to jump into jello or something, and he frequently is making them do a lot of deadly challenges that would most likely kill, or almost certainly kill, a real person. And he doesn't just get off by torturing them in the daily challenges, he also loved to draw out those elimination ceremonies and make the contestants sweat at the potential of going home. Oftentimes he'd also completely break his own rules in favor of eliminating a cast member when he was just annoyed or ready for them to be gone, which is something that you see much more frequently in later seasons. So Total Drama Island was clearly a parody of Survivor, The Challenge, and a lot of other reality TV shows that are honestly still on air right now. And while it's a parody and a scripted series, the writing did its best to make Eliminations feel the opposite of that. More so reality TV extravagance and less so plot devicey. Of course, that doesn't mean every elimination was completely fair, since it was a scripted animated TV show. It obviously had to use some characters and their eliminations as plot devices to move forward the stories of truly main cast members like Gwen and Heather. That's why today we're going to review the most unfair eliminations from the original Total Drama Island series. So the first character was a fan favorite, or maybe he was just my favorite, Trent, Gwen's season 1 love interest and an all-around really good guy. If you don't remember Trent, he was a relaxed and very nice guy that got along with basically everyone on the show. He was frequently seen around the camp with his guitar and even helped the Screaming Gophers score well in the talent show episode Not Quite Famous, and almost won that challenge for them with his musicality. But his time for elimination finally came when everyone turned their back on him as part of Heather's plot to ruin Gwen's mindset and make her spiral. After Heather hatched her elaborate scheme to make Gwen walk in on her and Trent kissing, she knew Gwen would run to Leshawna for comfort, and Leshawna would then run to the rest of the camp members to try to get Heather out. Unfortunately, Heather was immune from elimination this episode, and because of Heather's immunity, the cast then turned their backs on Trent and set their sights on voting out this cool guy. Even though he really didn't do anything wrong, he was completely tricked and manipulated by Heather, and she honestly kind of jumped on him and kissed him without giving him any chance to pull away because it was so perfectly timed. So the next camper that I think was very unfairly eliminated is Lindsay. This poor girl, as dumb as she was, had a heart of gold and really just wanted to be friends with everyone, but also wanted to win and genuinely believed that mean girl Heather was her friend, which is just like really sad. Lindsay really deserved to be treated so much better than she was, but that was her character's purpose, to mainly be a punching bag and minion for Heather. Her elimination was kind of an iconic moment for the franchise and still is one of the most memorable episodes across the entire series. In Lindsay's final episode in the game, the challengers have to build bikes out of spare parts and race those bikes. Of course, Heather was never going to build her own bike, and she manipulates Lindsay into building both her own and Heather's bikes. And the first twist comes after all of the bikes are built, and the campers have to then swap their bikes by drawing names out of a hat, and if the campers' bikes crosses the finish line, then the bike builder gets to race in the second leg. So Lindsay, Heather, Duncan, and Owen's bikes are all the bikes that make it across the finish line, and they get to race in the second leg. But the next twist is that the last camper to cross the finish line out of those 4 is automatically eliminated from the game. So Owen and Duncan wipe out pretty quickly, and Lindsay and Heather then have to race to the finish. Lindsay is in the lead the entire race, basically creating a path for Heather to follow in to get to the finish line safely. But at the Piranha Pool, Lindsay comes to a screeching halt, and Heather blasts ahead of her with her special red button trump card. The final twist of the challenge is when Chris interrupts Heather and Lindsay's celebration to say that Lindsay is technically the last one to cross the finish line, so she's eliminated. And this is where Heather and Lindsay get into a fight, and well, just go ahead and watch this scene for yourself.
You really are mean! And all that bad stuff people say about you is true! Like how you're a two-faced, backstabbing, lying little, no-good, selfish, heartless, pushy, bossy, mean bully of a girl! I always told them they were wrong. I stood up for you because I thought we were BFFs! But they're right! You really BFFs anymore. I'd rather spend the day staring at Owen's butt than shopping with you. And P.S. Your shoes are tacky. I don't know what came over me. Oh wait, yes I do. Heather's a total no good selfish.
Okay, so this was a pretty shitty and unfair elimination to say the least. Lindsay definitely deserved better, but also why did the other disqualified campers not have to face elimination at all? Like, kind of rigged against whoever actually finishes when the whole point was to try to wipe them all out. So as annoying as this next contestant originally was, she was a fan favorite kind of from the beginning and became one of the mainstays of the series as it went on. And this next camper with the most unfair elimination from the Total Drama Island series is Courtney. So Courtney comes off as this like strong, level-headed type A character that will always take control even if she's not asked to. And throughout the original series, she's regularly shoving her counselor in training or CIT status down everyone's throat as a reason why they need to follow her lead. But as the season goes on, she softens up a bit, especially to the likes of Duncan, which ultimately becomes her undoing. Cozying up to Duncan put her in the crossfires in this ongoing war between Duncan and Harold. And in the episode Basic Straining, Duncan takes his torment of Harold to a whole new level, which pushes Harold over the edge. And the entire episode, Courtney is telling Duncan that he needs to stop making fun of Harold, all while flirting with Duncan. They're goofing off toward the end of the episode, and Duncan and Courtney then share their first and honestly final kiss of the Total Drama Island series, but Harold has other plans for their relationship. Courtney is shockingly eliminated to everyone else's surprise because it seemed like she was finally getting along with everybody, and of course she doesn't bow out gracefully. It's Courtney. But in a confessional at the end of the episode, it's revealed that Harold tampered with the votes and stuffed the ballot box with votes against Courtney as revenge against Duncan for the torment throughout the season. I'd say that's a pretty unfair elimination, especially considering the fact that Chris had to have known that the votes were tampered with, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, so this next camper, this placement might be kind of controversial, but let's be real. Heather would have kept the Triple Dog Dare challenge going for as long as she possibly could to avoid being eliminated. If you don't know who Heather is, she is the main antagonist of the original series. She is responsible for so many people's eliminations. She's manipulative, she's vicious, and she is incredibly strategic. Throughout the series, she's pulling strings, like I said, for so many people's eliminations, some of those being Beth, Trent, Lindsay, and Justin. In the episode Heather is eliminated, she is made it to the semifinals, and it is the Triple Dog Dare Spin the Wheel challenge where all the other campers got to submit dares, and each challenge has to be done by Owen, Gwen, or Heather. Owen and Gwen realize very quickly that they cannot beat Heather alone. They need to form an alliance for the remainder of the game and force all of their dares onto Heather so they can advance to the final challenge. Ultimately, their plan works and exhausts Heather, but she persists until one final wheel spin and it lands on a dare submitted by Lindsay, which is almost a sigh of relief for her because she's like, how bad of a dare could dumb Lindsay come up with? But it's revealed that Lindsay's dare is to shave your head. So as Heather is sitting in the barber chair and Chef Hatchet is slowly bringing those clippers to her head, she freaks out, kicks the clippers like a dumbass out of Chef's hands and falls back into the seat, while those clippers that she kicked into the sky fall and land directly on her head and shave a strip all around her head, and she looks an absolute mess. So she thinks she's safe because she shaved her head, but technically, as stated by Chris, she never accepted the dare and is thus eliminated from the game. In reality, I think she should have been able to stay in the game because at that point she could have accepted the dare and still shaved whatever was left of her head. And I get it, it was part of the plot, Gwen finally having defeated Heather, but if this were a real reality show, I think Heather would have probably been allowed to stay in the game, although I'm not sure she would have survived the clippers. Before we get into the last and final unfair elimination of this top 5 list, here are some honorable mentions. Literally anyone Heather manipulated into elimination, that being like Justin and Beth. Say Izzy's first elimination's pretty unfair because she kind of just runs away from the FBI. I think Cody's was kind of unfair because he was brutally injured. Bridget's was kind of unfair because she was sprayed by a skunk, so like all they had to do was get her tomato juice, and that's kind of it. Those are the honorable mentions. Was this final unfair elimination even a surprise? Of course it is Leshawna. I mean, shit, the girl was eliminated by campers that weren't even in the game anymore. Honestly, I think Leshawna might have won the game, or at least made it to the final 2 with Gwen had she not been eliminated in the top 5 position. Leshawna only really had one enemy the entire game, and it was Heather, and if it was Gwen, Heather, and Leshawna in the final 3, Leshawna would have taken Heather out much faster, and she was pretty much liked by literally everybody. There was not one person that disliked her beyond Heather. And in the episode, Leshawna is eliminated, the remaining campers are enjoying their day off at Wawanakwa, and the episode focuses on the eliminated campers and talking about their experience on the show, who they were close with, what they've been up to in the weeks since their eliminations. And at the end of the day, Chris asks all the campers gathered around the pool to say who they would like to send home. This would have been the perfect opportunity for these campers to eliminate Heather, as she had wronged so many of them, but each one of them gets off topic and talks about how much they love Leshawna and accidentally continue to say her name, and Chris counts that as their formal votes. There end up being more votes for Leshawna than there are people eligible to vote. One by one, the campers realize what's happening, and they keep trying to not say her name, but like I said, it just keeps coming up. They keep talking about Leshawna, keep trying to be like, guys, stop saying Leshawna's name, but say it anyway. And the end of the episode, Leshawna is dragged down the dock of shame, off to the boat of losers, and brought to the Playa de Loserdom. So, what do you think of my rankings of the most unfair eliminations on Total Drama Island? Is there anyone that I missed in my rankings of most unfair Total Drama Island eliminations, or do you agree with my list for the most part? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.